Derek Scott set to join us here in just a second. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Looking ahead to tomorrow, Elijah will be traveling to beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. We'll get him in for a portion of the program. Brad Muller set to join us from Cleveland and efforting a few other special guests. I believe our good friend Mike Gillespie going to hang out with us for a little bit tomorrow as well, but we'll keep you updated on that. But does Elijah make it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Does he get over to Cedar Point? I don't know. We'll see. We'll get into all those things with him, but he'll be up there covering the tournament. And again, thanks to our friends at Forest Lake Travel for getting him up there for you this weekend. All right, as promised, the voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott. Now, Derek thinks we're going to talk baseball. But
I do not.
But instead, Derek lives out at Charwood, and we're going to be raiding his house early Friday and just hanging out and heckling people all day long. You good with that?
I like it. I do like it. I mean, I can pull up some chairs in the backyard if you'd like, man.
We'll see. Now, listen, some of us are very well behaved, and then some of us, Bill Gunner, are not. So you know, careful on exactly, you know, if you want to like have a sign that says everybody welcome but Gunner, I'm here for that too.
Well, see, the funny thing is where I am, it's like the second shot a lot of people play on the par 5 there where I live is if you hit a decent drive, you're right out my backyard. And so I have been known, if I take a peek out the window, just happen to see somebody I know, I have been known to disrupt second shots on that hole. So this could be entertaining because assuming you guys are playing a best ball format or something, then odds are you're going to be somewhere, you know, in a decent shot. So I would like to think you'll be down by my house. So I might even need to borrow a bullhorn for this.
Oh, please, especially with Gunner. I don't care. The rest of the people I want you to be very kind to, but with Gunner,
no. I'll mess with Gunner especially, but I'm an equal opportunity disruptor when it comes to this sort of stuff.
That's cool.
So.
That's cool. Well, Elijah and I won't be playing. Elijah will be in Cleveland, and I'll be. Unfortunately, I can't play because I have to get ready for the show. Work always intrudes with me when it comes to these golf tournaments because they end when I'm going on the air. But anyway, hopefully we'll see you out there. If not, let's talk a little baseball. Derek and Stuart have the call tomorrow night. Carolina, Georgia Southern, the weekend series against A&M. How much, in your opinion, how many opportunities perhaps were lost this past weekend? I mean, does this baseball team want that Thursday game back, or do you chalk that one up to, hey, you can't win them all?
Well, you can't win them all, but you definitely want Thursday back. That was a circumstance where everything was put in your favor. You know, you decided, if you're South Carolina, that you could run your Friday guy out early, and he answered the bell in a big way. And Alabama did not choose to try that, and so you had the edge there. You had the momentum early with a couple of first inning runs. And when you lose a one-run game and you can count the miscues that you made, either physical or mental, and fill up a hand, you're going to kick yourself. And I know everybody involved on the road trip there was kicking themselves about letting that one get away. And some of it I really do feel like was the product. I don't like those new LED lights. It may be cool when you hit a home run and they flash on and off, but I don't think they're great for night games at all. And I thought our guys really struggled at times with that. And I even to the point, just my theory, but I even feel like it impacted Cole behind the plate. Stewart felt like it may have had more to do with the fact that they don't water around the plate. It was like concrete, almost like the old Florida field. But there were definitely some home advantages, I guess you would say, that weren't the kind that you would expect. They weren't crowd related. You know, the crowd was all, waiting for the basketball game to start that night. So there were a few things that day that really played into the Gamecocks' favor, and that's when you definitely felt like you should have had, not just could have had, but should have had.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the big things over the weekend too, I guess from a pitching standpoint, and I asked Mark Kingston about this yesterday about how the roles are defining, and you had some variance in terms of how the bullpen performed this week. Or this past weekend and the week prior, but how would you kind of say that the roles in terms of the bullpen and the starting rotation are starting to kind of play out now that we've gotten about 9 games into SEC play?
Well, I think it's still evolving. You're still trying to get a feel for who fits best where. I mean, you started conference play, obviously, with where you were, where your jumping off point was. And we've already seen the evolution of a change to the third spot in the weekend, the Sunday spot with the freshman stepping up as big as he did against Vanderbilt. But right now, I think, you also have questions about, all right, what about Dylan Eskew? Is it worthy of continuing on another week? Do you want to fool with guys who have been really good for you, in long relief? I mean, there have been plenty of teams that have won a lot in college baseball and in this league without having a clear-cut three-person rotation. The opener concept, sometimes you come to that in almost an accidental fashion. You don't necessarily plan for it to work that way. But do you really want to mess with Matthew Becker with everything going as well as it is for him out of the bullpen? Do you want to try and ask him to start? Because it is a different kind of preparation, and some people are built more for it than others. I don't know that you want to mess with Matthew, even though it might look obvious that he should, he's throwing it better than most everyone. He should be a starter. Well, yes, but what if it doesn't translate as a starter? So it's trial and error, and for a lot of college teams, it doesn't necessarily stop when the calendar turns to April, or even when the calendar turns to May. It's a constant evaluation and evolution, and I'd say the same thing, for a couple other guys there who are pitching really well out of the pen right now, and I don't know that you want to necessarily mess with it, but you might feel obligated to try something different this weekend.
Talking to the voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott. Again, Carolina back at it tomorrow, the first of a 4-game homestand. Georgia Southern will be in town, then A&M this weekend. Staying with that last point, Elijah and I on last week when we had Coach Kingston, not yesterday, but last week, made mention of kind of what you did with Becker and some others out of the bullpen, that a lot of their starters right now, Derek, and you can take us more in depth on this, are ground ball guys that are going to have the ball get put in play, and that he and Matt really like the ability to have strikeout guys come in behind them. So for fans that ask, that might be one of the things about Becker and a couple of others, that they like the formula they have. But take us through more of what you see and where a good kind of disruption could be applicable, or whether it really is better to leave the system in place. Is there another arm that could replace somebody that's the same style as a starter?
Yeah, that's the question, because Ty Good is not really a ground ball guy. He has a starter's repertoire, though. He's got 4 pitches that he can throw for strikes. And, normally a lot of your bullpen guys are 2-pitch guys, and he's most certainly a 3-pitch guy, if not a 4. So you can easily argue that he could fit into that starting role, but man, he's older, and so it doesn't faze him to come into a situation that may already have some emotion involved in it, as opposed to a start. I just really like what I've seen from he and Becker in their current roles. I don't know that I'd want to mess with that, but I also understand if you feel like you need to try to get off to a better start on that second game of the weekend. And we could see Pitzer moving up to the Saturday role this weekend, since we had the late series, or I should say the early series last weekend. He pitched on Saturday, so you could see him go on Saturday, and they leave Sunday as the TBD like they were doing previously. There's a lot of options, and obviously with A&M's stout lineup, you have to be ready to shift on the fly if it's just not working for somebody in whatever role you put them in.
Derek Scott on with us right now, and as much as I want to ask about your excitement about the Reds being 3-1 and Spencer Steer hitting that awesome grand slam last night to beat the Phillies, I do want to get your thoughts on the last play of the Alabama game on Saturday, that thrilling play, the out at third, which is just as exciting to me as the grand slam last night. But we talked about it a lot on yesterday's show, but I can't talk enough about the heads-up fielding from this Gamecock team in that particular moment, because that might be one of the more thrilling finishes that aren't walk-off home runs that you get in college baseball.
That whole inning was just bananas, or that half inning. I mean, the pop-up, the game's over, and then next thing you know, there's Gavin's feet flying out from under him. And we had talked earlier, because the Gamecocks made an out at third on a base running gaff that was also to some degree triggered by the fact that the surface in foul territory is AstroTurf, and it is, kind of, I don't know, matted down is the right description, but it is so slick and guys' feet come right out from under him. It happened to Kennedy Jones. It happened to Costas. I don't know that it happened to McCants as much. I have no idea why he was that aggressive coming around third base. That was bad. That was just a bad base running play by a guy who's, old enough to not make that mistake, but he's also a guy who can fly. So I just figure when guys like that are running, they just want to keep running. But he made way too big of a turn on a play where he had nowhere to go. And for that to have happened in that moment, and the Gamecocks to seize upon it, it was a heads-up play by Lee Croy. It was a heads-up play by Tippett. And then they had to execute. Yeah, still had to make the throw perfectly and get the tag down on a long guy like McCants, who, at that point scrambling for dear life to not be the guy who makes that last out. It was a nutty play. It absolutely was, and a crazy way to end that game. But just glad it turned out the way it did, because after suffering losses on Thursday and Friday that neither one were easy to digest, if you would have had to take that one on top of it, that would not have been that 6-hour ride home would have felt like 14.
Yeah, and I did. I was listening to you on that call when there was the slip, and I could almost hear the I don't know, not disappointment, but amazement in your voice of like
amazement.
Yeah.
I think but because think about it, Jay, you had that, and then you had another pop up with 2 strikes and 2 outs where it was just out of the reach of Cole and nothing he could have done differently. Then you get a 2-strike count on the play that ended the game, and the guy has a swinging bunt. I mean, for all the world, it's looking like it's going to be bases loaded, 2 outs, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, is this really happening?" And then just snap of a finger, it turns into out number 3, and we all breathe a sigh of relief. It was a nutty ending for sure.
But hey, get out of there with a W and get a nice ride home. He's Derek Scott, D. Scott Gamecocks to follow on Twitter. He and Stewart tomorrow night on the call, 6:45, right here on the Gamecock Radio Network, and this weekend against A&M. We'll try to see you Friday at the golf course. Thank you as always, sir.
All right, guys. Take care.
Good stuff. That's Derek. I've got some developing SEC basketball news.